where would I put it up to be in frame? You know, I don't know. Is here work? Yes, I gotta move my notes about the actual books I read. Yeah, okay. Hello, hi, welcome to the monthly wrap up of some of the books I read in June, specifically the books that weren't in videos. Um, and you know, there's four. There's only four. If you are not into the stats and me yapping for a long time, there's going to be a hyper edited down version. That's going to be a YouTube short slash Instagram reel. Now, stats. Stats. I read 15 books, again, only four of them for this. Grand total of 3,762 pages. Not bad, I guess. 56 hours, I think. Most were dual reading. And my average rating was 3.3. Don't talk to me. I don't want to talk about it. I say that, I feel like almost everything I either gave a 3 or a 4. I don't think I gave anything a 2-star or lower. And I know for a fact I didn't give anything a 5-star. Because I had to go through all the 4 stars I read this month to try to figure out what my favorite of the month was going to be. And I love that for me. Now, I would like to note one very important thing, which is every book I read in June was queer. Asterisk. There's an asterisk. I will talk about the asterisks in this. First book, Queer Little Nightmares, is a short story collection. As per most short story collections, I rated it 3 stars. There were some I really didn't like. I could go into depth about one of them that I really despised. And then there were some that I really enjoyed. There was this one, I can remember it was WWMD because for the longest time I was like, what does the M stand for? And then the very end happens, it's Medusa. It's Medusa. That was just one of many that pointed out. The ones, I caught a theme. The ones I liked in this collection were by authors of color. The one thing I will give this book, it is a very large range of sexuality, gender identity, and racial aspects. So, like, the Medusa one I just brought up is indigenous author. Like, there's a large range of people. I think I counted at one point. I think there's like over 50 stories. And it is stories, but it's also poems. The poems in general were like fine. The main issues I had were with the short stories, some of the short stories. So like 3 stars. The end. Europea Halls is a book. Listen, okay, so sometimes I just scroll on Instagram and look at people posting about books. And in the beginning of Pride Month, there was a lot of posts about queer books to read, blah, 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 blah. There was a post about queer horror in which the one whole page of this post was just books by this author. And so I was like, maybe I'll try them out. Okay, right? So I read the first Europea Halls book. From what I can tell, he has the Europea Halls is 3 books. I'm not continuing. It's 3 books. And then there's another series that's multiple books. And then there's at least one standalone. Here's my issue. Some of my writing issues, especially when it comes to dialogue sometimes, or like there were some times where a character would have like a nickname, but I was like, okay, I don't understand how this is a nickname of this name, right? And so I'd be very confused, right? And confused which character is which, and like there was this whole aspect where outwardly they would describe a member of the friend group as one way, and then internally another character would describe them as a completely different way, or as like really annoying. But I was like, I can't tell if I like this because this does feel like teenage girls. But and we'll talk about it. It's written by a man. 3.5 stars. Essentially, It is your typical slasher. Think Scream. I did read this at the perfect time because this is when I was having my hyperfixation with the Scream TV show. I feel like I need to explain. I watched it. I watched season one. Correction. I watched season one. Around the time it came out, right? And then I started season two and I never finished. And then I saw a post about it and I was like, maybe I should try that again. I'm kind of in a slasher mood, so I was like, what if I try it again? And so I'm almost done with season two now. I've been putting it off. I've been rewatching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. instead. This is how my brain's going. This is how my life's going. Anyways, think Scream. Very Scream-esque, right? Except, it's like Scream mixed with Pretty Little Liars, kind of, because it is an all-female cast. One thing I'll give it, a diverse. It is Eureka Halls because the school is Eureka Halls because it's European. It's that's the whole thing. It's European version, right? They're from all across the world. I think it takes place in Brussels, which the parts where they left the school, I liked. Like the stuff about the Brussels culture and like the newbie who's never been here before and whatnot. I'm not understanding it. That part I liked, which makes sense because the author is from Brussels or lives in Brussels, one of the two. There was another thing where like because they're all from like I think one of them's from like Croatia, like they're very different part of the world coming together into this friend group, and so because of that, there are cultural differences. Like one of them, it is just a known thing to be very blunt, which causes some issues with some people, right? And so that whole aspect was interesting. The book starts very Scream-esque. First chapter, one of them being brutally murdered, right? It's very gruesome. The police assume it's this one guy. Listen, I had an issue with the police, and then the plot, or like the revelation of the whodunit happened, and it makes sense. It makes sense because the police thinks it's one of the girls' boyfriends, because we saw him happening to be at the place of the first girl who dies literally moments before it happens. And so the police think it's him, and they arrest him, and he is in a jail cell when the second murder happens. So they let him go, and then because he happens to be somewhere near the school at one point, after that, they just think it's him. They're like, we found evidence it's him, and don't explain it. And I was like, that makes no sense. Like, okay, sure, maybe there's two of them, which there is, because it's Scream. Maybe there's two of them. Hi, puppy. And he's an accomplice or something. Hi. But if that's the case, follow him. And don't assume it's just him, because it makes no sense, because how did that one murder, technically it was two murders, happen when he was in prison? Right? Like, it makes no sense. Until the twist happens, or the revelation happens, and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Anyways, that it's essentially them being hunted down, trying to figure out who's trying to kill them, and making stupid decisions. Like, and listen, there's this whole part where they're like, well, if we just go to this dance, it'll be fine. Literally, like, 3 out of 6 of the girls have died in the past, like, 24 hours or 48 hours, something like that. There's also, like, a whole aspect about, like, the publicity of this, how, like, the, in front of the school is a lot of journalists and whatnot, like, trying to storm into the, dorm room that the girls live in, or dorm building, trying to, like, question them. And it's like, these are, like, 16-year-old girls whose best friends are being brutally murdered, and they're, like, next on the list type of situation. Now you maybe be like, how is this queer? One of them is a lesbian. That's it. One of them is a lesbian. There's also commentary about how the lesbian and the black girl are the, like, last ones and stuff like that. Anyways, my main issue with this, I hinted at it. It's written by man. I generally, hear me out, I don't like, especially in the mystery thriller horror section genre, don't like when it is a female oriented cast. It makes sense, because who's it's gonna happen to? Obviously women. Written by men. Like Scream, I can excuse because it's mixed, right? It is both men and women, right? Um, and all that jazz. No, this is just six women that we get from the point of view of and and I'm going to spoil it for you. Both the killers also women. Um, and we occasionally get the head detective's point of view. She's also a woman. Um, and so every point of view we get is a woman. I think there's about 15 seconds of the boyfriend who is suspected of the murders POV. That's it. And it makes me feel icky. It makes me feel icky, and I feel bad because this is indie. And or self-published, I think. And I was looking at reviews, and for the most part, a lot of people appreciate it for what it is. It is a slasher set in Europe, which never happens. Right? They're usually American. And so that whole aspect, and like the parts I enjoyed was that aspect. It's just like the fact that it's teenage girls written by an adult man, right? And so some of their internal dialogue or internal thought processes felt disconjointed from the rest of the book, and that makes sense because it's written by a man. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's never had to think like a teenage girl. Thank you very much. And so for that reason, it's a 3.5. The end. I talked way too long about that one book. Next up is the first asterisk. Exit Strategy, which is the fourth book in the Murderbot Diaries. Listen, I call it queer because main character Murderbot uses they them pronouns. There are multiple times throughout the series up to this point when they are pretending to be human, especially in books 2 and 3. And while pretending to be human, specifically states pronouns as or sci-fi version of they them, right? This is the fourth book out of 8. I read books 2, 3, and 4 this month. This is just the only one that wasn't in a video. I'm kind of hyper fixated on the series. We don't need to talk about it. I do have access to Apple TV on the TV in this room, so I could 100% watch the show. Very excited for that. I do picture Murderbot as Skarsgård. I love that for me. Anyways, the first book is about Murderbot trying to save humans from evil company. That's essentially what happens in every book. I'm gonna be honest. Murderbot does a lot of saving people from evil companies. Essentially, Murderbot is a sec unit, which is security unit, security robot to make sure that, like, usually it's against natural creatures in the environment that science experiments or studying is happening on planets that, like, never been explored before type situation, protecting against those. But sometimes companies be evil. And so, essentially, a few years prior, Murderbot killed a bunch of people. And technically, the company, when this happens, wipes the sec unit's mind and then puts them back in the field, right? Because a lot of money goes into a sec unit, right? I kind of get it from a company standpoint, but the issue is, I think either the third one or fourth one, it is explained that the reason why Murderbot can actually remember all this is because they do have some organic parts, right? And so because of that, like, yeah, you can, like, erase the electronic components that keep their memories, but the organic brain matter essentially remembers. And so, they were like, hey, the part in me that's supposed to stop me from killing a bunch of people failed that one time, so what if I hack it and I just do what I want, which is essentially doing their job until the end of the first book when they go off on their own. And then there's, like, a whole part where they're investigating what happened that one time. And then there's investigating another instance with the evil company from the first book to try to help out the humans that they got along with in the first book. This one is them going back to those humans. And essentially having to help them out a bunch. And the end of the book is very much like set up the second half of the series, which is Murderbot isn't alone anymore, but what does Murderbot do now, right? Like, Murderbot still wants to help out people, and people have caught on that Murderbot kind of doing good for the little people. That's what we're gonna say. And I at one point was like, it's giving kind of Robin Hood-esque, like, Murderbot's helping the little people, doing things for the people who are just trying to survive and do their work and science, and then evil companies do evil company things, right? And so Murderbot, people have noticed this and want to hire Murderbot, and I love that. That's what I wanted. 4 stars. I think I've rated every one since the first one 4 stars. The first one was 4.5. I love this series. The end. And then the other asterisks, all in her head, which is the nonfiction I read this month. It is not a queer nonfiction. It is a nonfiction about women's health. The author is a breast cancer oncologist, right? So, you know, most of her patients are a woman. And she knows certain things while talking to female patients, especially how, like, other doctors treat them and whatnot. And so she decided to do a bunch of research about science and medical field based around how women's bodies are different from men and all these different body parts. And this, like, each chapter is broken up into parts, so it's like skin, muscle, blah 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 blah. Here's the asterisk is queer people are brought up, especially trans people, in specifically the muscular and then the hormonal chapters. The muscular was brought up because back in the ye olden days when they first started adding women's sports to the Olympics, apparently there's a whole thing where people would question if a woman is woman enough or really just a man pretending to be a woman. And I'm just vividly remembering when a certain wizard author did that somewhat recently. I'm pretty sure that I'm like 99% sure this book was written before that because it came out in 2024. So, like, the book was definitely written prior to that. Especially that chapter, because that's like the second or third chapter. That hit a little too hard. And then there's like a whole like 5-sentence thing about trans athletes in that section. The other aspect, obviously hormonal, because the whole section on hormones was a good part of it was about HRT and hormonal therapy, especially for women who are going through menopause and whatnot. And essentially, it was briefly brought up about trans children, kids, teenagers, young trans people going on hormonal therapy, because technically we don't know much about the long-term effects, so it's like this whole thing. And then also as like an oncologist, trans people wanting to still take their hormone therapy while going through cancer treatment, and if that's possible and whatnot. So like, yeah, important stuff. As you expect, where trans people would appear is when we're talking about hormones and hormone therapy. That makes sense. Essentially, the thing I learned most about this book is that, according to ye olden times, everything wrong with me is because I bleed out of my body once a month. And clearly, that is evil. My womb just travels along my whole entire body. And that's why I have anxiety. Trying to picture what they thought was happening. That's so funny. Like, I can't even with that. And then self-pleasure is why everything wrong with a woman happens because she self-pleasures too much. It doesn't matter if she doesn't even know how to do that, because this is Victorian days, okay? They're like 16, 17 years old and married to a 40-year-old man. I don't think that I have time or energy to try to figure that out, right? So clearly, the last chapter was about sexual organs and how certain ones were considered evil because female self-pleasure. No! We can't have that. Anyways, 4 stars. That's what I rate most nonfiction. It was pretty good. The end. That's everything. I'm gonna go. This is the middle of the heat wave, so I actually am gonna go. I am boiling hot, sitting right here. I am directly in view of like multiple. Like, you can see the windows. Like, yeah, I'm direct sun. Kill me. I'm gonna go sit in a cold room. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And the video stuff is Wednesdays are usually gaming videos. Not this past Wednesday, but normally they're gaming videos, which are slightly edited down gaming streams from Twitch. I stream on Twitch. Sometimes gaming, as mentioned, but also co-working. That's what I'm doing right now, actually, on the computer. In which I'm doing like reading and editing and a bunch of work stuff. So check that out. I don't really have a schedule at the end of that. Saturdays are booktube videos like this one. The next one should be the Weird Smut of July, because I know that's what everyone comes here for. Anyways, the end. Goodbye. Thank you for coming to the video. Until next time.